What is something about yourself that is completely true but that nobody would believe? I was parked in a space and left 10 minutes before a car with a bomb parked there and blew up. Both of my parents have a twin sister named Jenny. All my family has pretty cool middle names, and when people are like, "What's your full?" I get to my middle name, which is Thunderstorm, and they just don't believe me until I get someone in my family to back me up. Edit. Since a lot of you want, the other middle names are Morningstar, Firefly, Honeybee, and Stillwater. Edit 2. I forgot to mention I actually have two middle names. The other one is Liam. Edit 3. Thank you for my first awards, kind strangers. In 1982 I met and had a long conversation with Joe Perry, the guitarist for Aerosmith, in a bar. I told him what kind of guitar I was playing at the time. He said he had one somewhere up north at a girlfriend's house but never played it. I told him he should find it. A few months later his new album came out and he was holding the guitar. In 1996 I jammed on stage with Tommy Chong. I switched my handedness from right to left and I am now left-handed. When I was younger I was river tubing with some family. Stupid me forgot to bring eye drops for my contacts, and one popped out into the water. Later we come to a shallow end, and this little girl finds my contact. Like, what are the odds? In case you're wondering, yes, I popped it back in. Looking back I don't know what the bigger miracle is, losing a contact in a river, and finding it again. Or not getting my eye infected when I put it back in. I have been dreaming of a girl since I was a small child. She would appear in any dream I was having at the time and talk to me, play games. This happened almost daily for years until I was 12. I thought maybe she had been my wife in another life. One day I told her that we couldn't see each other anymore and that I needed to move on with my life. She cried and I felt horrible as I said goodbye. I stopped dreaming of her after that and regretted it badly for the next 23 years. 3 years ago a woman that looks just like her walked up to me and said, "We should be friends." I don't think I have ever had anyone just tell me to be their friend out of the blue like this. She is now currently my best friend and I look forward to every conversation we have. I have never met anyone that has mentally changed my outlook on life as much as her, and I am so grateful to have met her. I married really young and my ex-husband ended up killing several people during our marriage. I had to separate from my daughter for our protection because he was still at large. After 9 years, I finally reconnected with her. People think I abandoned her, but as long as she knows differently, that's all that matters. We're safe and out of his reach now, and I couldn't be happier. Edit to add. He was finally apprehended 2 years ago, and immediately after I was reunited with my daughter. I didn't abandon her. We were forced to separate for our protection and had to move far away from our little house. I didn't know where she was and she couldn't know where I went. I honestly never thought I'd get to see her again, so just having her in my life again is a miracle. I don't know why he did the things he's done, but I take comfort in the fact he is now in prison and his appeals have been denied. May he rot in there for every single life he's destroyed, including the childhood my daughter should have had. I've died once. I was hit by a car and was left in the street for 20+ minutes. My pancreas, liver and small intestines were ruptured. I broke my left elbow, left shoulder, left collarbone, right wrist, pelvis in 6 to 8 places and my skull. They declared me legally dead for about 10 minutes in the ambulance but were able to resuscitate me. I had amnesia for a month, and lost the majority of my memories before the age of 13. This year was my 13-year anniversary of it happening. I'm mostly fine now but I have a limp when I get tired. Most people believe I did in fact get hit, they just believe the part of me dying. Edit. I was also in a coma for a month. I had a house with an indoor pool at age 25. Made $15K on the weekends playing blackjack in Vegas. I was retired at 26, and then homeless and bankrupt from divorce at 28. I grew up on a tiny island, unrelated to Africa. Nelson Mandela held my hand and walked me to school as his plane refueled there. Edit ****. Lots of questions on where this island was. It was Cocos Islands in the Indian Ocean back in the 90s. Lots of people calling fake. I wouldn't believe a stranger on the internet either, but I do have photos of me as an oblivious little kid trotting next to him like it's no big deal. Kid me had no idea that my life had peaked at that moment. Gang members tried to rob me and I told them no. I was alone in downtown Minneapolis and two Bloods tried to rob me, but I laughed and said, I don't have money on me because so many people see a skinny white guy and try to rob me. I was lying and I don't know why I reacted that way. One of them stared at me for like 5 seconds then said, okay, you're cool, and they walked away. Minneapolis doesn't have nearly as much of a gang problem now, but definitely did then. This happened when there was a parking lot across 7th Street from First Avenue, the club where Purple Rain was partly filmed. More detail if you want it. The first one asked for money and I said I didn't have cash. The second appeared out of nowhere. Like suddenly his face was right next to mine and he said, I don't think you heard him. He said he wants your money. Peter Gabriel complimented me on my guitar playing when I was 5. I can stop hiccuping by force of will. After multiple times going, I've never lost in Las Vegas. Broke my neck. Didn't know until a nurse was helping me with physio after surgery for a punctured lung. More info in the small chance people see this. Punctured the lung spontaneously. They call it a spontaneous pneumothorax. I have no idea how I fucked up a vertebrae in my neck, had a hairline fracture. Edit. I guess some people did notice this. The worst part for me now is not the neck which they fixed promptly, it's the fact that in the back of mind I am still aware the other lung could go at any time. It's been a decade and I am still all too well of that fact. The comments below will explain how possible that is because both lungs are often susceptible. These blebs are a ticking time bomb. I can barely remember details past a few months ago. I have essentially no recollection of what things look like. Big events and things like that work fine, but details are gone and half the time I can't tell if I actually remember something or I remember someone telling me about something. People usually don't believe when I say I can tie my shoelaces while riding a bicycle. And yes, I need 2 hands for that. I escaped a carjacking attempt by the Gulf Cartel. If y'all are ever in an area with gang activity, make sure you're driving the shittiest vehicle. I can't tell faces apart and I can't picture people I know in my mind, not even close family members. If I try really hard, the most I get is a very blurry image. If someone changes their hairstyle, or if I see them out of the context that I usually see them in, then I can't recognize them. I have danced with a real-life prince. I was at the same university as Peter Phillips, grandson of the Queen of England, and he came and danced with me on one of my first nights out as a fresher. I didn't recognize him at first, wasn't really interested and went back to sit with my friends who were like, you do realize who that was, don't you? My nightmares, after my father was murdered, were cured by a shaman in the Amazon jungle. I'm a completely white female from the east of England with a ridiculously rare genetic heart condition that's most commonly found in Asian men. It killed my father when he was 50 and is likely the reason my granddad has had 4 heart attacks and needs an internal defibrillator. Hooray for genetic fuckiness. I jumped out from a moving bus to escape kidnapping. I happened to look out the window at work and saw the end of a high-speed chase resulting from a botched bank robbery. 3 were killed. I technically kidnapped my would-be mugger. Bought him breakfast, helped him through rehab, getting a job and eventually was the best man at his wedding. He's been clean on the straight and narrow now for 10+ years. I'm allergic to paprika. I live in Maryland. Maryland has this spice called Old Bay. This has paprika in it. The amount of people who honest to God do not believe I can be allergic to Old Bay is ridiculous. So much so one of my ex-friends who knew about my allergy invited me to her birthday party where all they had was Old Bay crabs. I had an allergic reaction and literally couldn't even be inside the house without it happening, so I just left. But her and a lot of people think I lie about my allergy for quirky points or something. Not even family believe me despite me having reactions in front of them face with rolling eyes. I can tell what people are eating through the phone. When I was a toddler, I was in beauty pageants with JonBenet Ramsey. We were in different age groups, but my mom has a photo of us together, tucked away along with the few trophies and tiaras I won. As a teenager I lived in a house that was next to a huge curve in the road, IIRC. It's a 1.5 miles of curve, and we were sort of at the apex. Anyway, Drivers would often lose control of their vehicle and flip into our front yard. With my bedroom being closest to the road, I always heard the crashes and would run outside while someone in my family called 911. I figured out after we moved that in 3 years there were around 15 accidents. One of those was a semi-truck that rolled over on its side and barely missed our house. Of those 15 accidents, 5 people died on impact and 3 I had to do CPR on. The high school I went to had a required CPR course, and the people ended up surviving. To this day I still remind people to buckle up or wear a helmet because I've seen what happens when they don't. I am not allergic to mosquitoes, which only occurs in 1 in a million. I'm a white guy. I was born in a country on the east coast of Africa, and spent a good part of my childhood in Kingston, Jamaica. When I returned to my parents' home country, I had a thick accent for a number of months. It's not hard to convince people now, but who boy was it hard in high school. Someone still owes me $100. Edit. Answered a comment below with some background. Through life I have held steady jobs as an opera singer, forensic psychologist, waiter, cleaner and editor, translator, proofwriter. In that order. When I, 24M, was 7 my parents were housing some young filmmakers and they had Steve Buscemi over for dinner. Really nice guy, just as everyone says. I can't remember a conversation I had 10 seconds ago, but I can remember most things from at least an hour ago. Also, I was locked away in an asylum 4 times. I am part Mexican but I look like a Swedish man with curly hair. Edit. I didn't know everyone liked my fucked up genetics lol or they just relate but I am happy that I'm immune to local anesthesia. Giving birth was a pain. Literally. Probably that I throw up every time I eat food if I don't take gravel or a shit ton of ginger. My husband believes me because he gets to see it every day unfortunately, but because I used to have an eating disorder every time I tell a doctor they never believe it's involuntary and I really do not want to throw up every time I eat. Like everything. Soup, crackers, whatever. It's usually very small, and I know it isn't acid reflux, tried medication for that, threw that up also, but it still just takes the fun out of eating. I was in Ohio while working for Bellator MMA years ago and met Dave Chappelle outside a Starbucks. He invited me to dinner that night and we sat and talked for hours with just a few close friends. He was every bit as amazing to hang with as you'd imagine. It was a wild experience that I knew no one would ever believe. I was the guy who microwaved an entire carton of eggs in the microwave in the break room last month. I can remember some pretty random facts that people will tell me about themselves or things that would have happened to them while I was there. I don't mention that to people because without context it sounds creepy AF. I've been brutally raped multiple times. As a fairly hefty 6 feet metalhead, the few people I've opened up to literally laughed. That I have won a WWE match. I can hear some infrasound wavelengths and some sounds from something like radio lengths. When I have audio exams I need to lie because the nurse gives me weird looks when I say, I can still hear it, when she lowers the frequency under the normal range. It also makes it really hard to listen to someone in a public space or near a train. To clarify, I can hear low sounds no one else can. Yes, I also hear phone chargers and stuff, but hearing those high-pitched things is more common or normal among younger people. I never forget names or faces. Like ever. I realized this nearly 2 decades ago working at a telemarketing company. I never forgot a name and to this day can think of several names I encountered that stood out. Later I worked at a nightclub and one day this couple came in, we'll call them Steve and Mindy. We chatted for about a minute or two. 3 years later Mindy runs into the bar hollering that someone assaulted her boyfriend. I said, "Oh no. Is Steve okay?" She looked at me like she's seen a ghost and I did think, oh, she's probably surprised I remember them. Later she asked how I could remember them and I just said that I never forget anyone I meet and have any substantial interaction with. I just don't forget names or faces ever. Almost 100% of the time they are permanently etched into my memory. Don't remember birthday or what day of the week it is and after 6 years still don't have my plates memorized but fuck it. If we met one time for 5 minutes 20 years ago, I still remember you. Weird but true. Not nobody, but synesthesia is hard to explain to people without synesthesia, and I've had people accuse me of making things up. I danced on stage in front of thousands of people in tap shoes. I can't learn mathematic formulas after basic fractions. I can learn them briefly and will forget them within hours. High school was a nightmare. I have hyper-dense muscle and bone mass. I am really strong and hard to break, but also super heavy. I am 6 feet 5 inches, but normal build, and I weigh over 300 pounds, and I do not float. No one believes me until I either A. demonstrate the strong, B. weigh myself, or C. almost drown for the millionth time. It's always that I was a serious alcoholic. I am a nice 29-year-old girl with glasses and 2 degrees, heading to grad school to study psych. About a year ago I was held against my will in the psych ward for 6 days after drinking non-stop for 3 months. Whenever I tell people I'm in recovery they're like, oh, like it's preventative. Or they compare me, without knowing much about me, to other, real alcoholics they have encountered. It's annoying, but at this point I'm okay with the fact that I seem extremely innocent, even though I'm generally not. A whale hit me with her tail and broke my rib while I was trying to save her and her pod. 50-plus pilot whales beached themselves on a beach I lifeguarded. I doubt anyone would believe me had there not been witnesses, the beach patrons helping with the whales with the lifeguards. When I was in high school, a random new kid started stalking me. Like following me home from school, I'd see him outside my house, he'd stand by my locker at school. He was weird. Told my counselor, but they didn't really believe me. Told a teacher I was close with, and he talked to the principal. They said they'd watch out. After about a week my boyfriend was pissed the school wasn't helping me. He confronted this kid and they almost physically fought. Finally, he got kicked out of school, and about a month later, less than 3 miles from my house, he strangled a girl my age, who also went to my school, and dumped her body in a field. I can wake myself up if I don't like the dream I'm in. My family ended up on the West Coast because Al Capone was rubbed the wrong way by my granduncle. He was murdered while visiting my great-grandpa's farm. Thanks for watching. See you later.